This is the Tropic Pianist Gamers podcast, episode 15, The Hybrid Gamer. Given that it's almost mid-July and the middle of summer, I thought it'd be great to talk about getting outdoors because I love getting out in nature. But why did I title this podcast episode The Hybrid Gamer? Well, stereotypically, gamers are thought of as teenagers hidden in their bedrooms alone. And at one point I was one of those types of gamers. In the days of RuneScape, that's all I did. But before that, going right back to being a small child, I always liked being outdoors. I think anxiety stopped me from wanting to go outdoors for quite a long period of time. My earliest memories of liking being outdoors was as a kid, a small kid, and my grandparents used to take me to the beach at Scarborough, Bridlington, Filey, all the North Yorkshire places. Scarborough was seen as the untidy beach, and that's where the donkeys were, so we most often went up to Bridlington, and we had an auntie in Hornsey, so we did spend a lot of time in North Yorkshire. My parents also loved holidaying in Scotland, but of course the midges came out there, so we'd try and go on walks and get bitten, or my mum would mainly get bitten, and we'd be laughing at her. I've taken that role over now though, so I have my lemony tropic products to protect me from being bitten. But my first significant memory when I was younger was around the age of 10, when I was what's considered the mascot for the WI ladies. The WI being the Women's Institute, of course. I was based in Glossop, Derbyshire, and the WI loved going on hikes around the area. And more often than not, I was put in charge of one of the ladies' dogs. Until I dropped the lead and it ran away. She never trusted me again after that. There was also the memory of us being chased through a nature reserve by a big angry swan who thought we were trying to steal her eggs. My love of walking continued, and at age 13 in year 9 I did my Duke of Edinburgh bronze. But what stopped me doing for silver was anxiety. The anxiety had kicked in by the time I was around age 13, and the prospect of having to find new people to work with when most of my class bullied me was too much for me to handle, so I dropped out before we started the silver, and my first boyfriend went on to do his silver and then his gold. I was always a tiny bit jealous, but anxiety stopped me from doing many things, and that was just one of them. When I got with my second boyfriend, Jonesy, at the age of 16, I was with him till I was 19, and we used to go on quite a lot of hikes in the area as well. It was basically us trying to find time to ourselves, away from maybe the brother. The brother sometimes came with us, but mainly the parents, his mum, my parents. We wanted some peace and quiet. We weren't getting up to anything, and it was purely emotional, but we needed that space, and I really enjoyed going on for walks with him. When we weren't going for walks, he was fixing me up with computers. He taught me how to build a computer, as in the desktop type of computer. Component by component, bit by bit, and by the middle of sixth form I had a really fancy desktop tower with light up cathodes in it, and I absolutely loved it, and I was probably playing The Sims most likely, but also featured Roller Coaster Tycoon and other games that I could join with my brother. We even had a network cable spreading across the bedrooms, which upset my dad because he thought it was in the way and it was annoying, but we did it anyway because it was fun at the time. But we still went for walks, and there was a good balance there until I turned 18 and went to university. So when I went to university, I was a kind of part-time gamer, as in I didn't really play a lot of games because as a teen I was bullied for liking games, so I kind of hid it mainly. It was only really in second year at uni that I got back into gaming because Jonesy dumped me and I was heartbroken. I needed that escape, which my now husband calls run escape. I got into RuneScape in 2005 when roughly everybody else seemed to be playing it, though I didn't know that at the time. I went on virtual adventures, so I kind of didn't see the need to go out on real adventures. I became the traditional stereotypical gamer for about 6 months of my life. It consumed my life, but I didn't see any need to get out there. So what changed? I met Dr. G in September 2007. But of course, if you've ever read my book, you know that I was also with Liam in September 2007. I'd just got together with him and was getting to know him because he was the first guy that I decided to date that I didn't know before dating. So all of my other boyfriends, I was best friends before dating them. And I learnt from Liam that opposites do not attract, you have to have a shared passion, and yeah, it wasn't working. So Dr. G slowly brought me around to his way of thinking. So we made a New Year's resolution in the January, just before we got together, that we'd go on walks. There were two memorable walks that we did before we ditched the New Year's resolution, like you do. The first one was just before I got together with Dr. G. I'd just finished with Liam and was pondering life at the time. I felt the chemistry between us, but I didn't want to make the first move because I'd only just finished with the other guy and I needed some space. But the chemistry was really there and I felt the desire to hug him. I think he felt it too, but he was too afraid to move, so we just sat there and talked. It was the next day, late at night, we finally decided to get together after I picked a romantic comedy film. I think it was Never Been Kissed. He took the hint and we had our first kiss that night. But that wasn't getting rid of the New Year's resolution. We still hoped to go on walks, but the dynamic changed slightly then. Of course, we got together through our love of Mario Kart, so upon meeting each other in the September 2007, we discovered that each other liked Mario Kart. I had the N64 Mario Kart in my place, he had SNES Mario Kart in his place, so we used to go around to each other's houses to play Mario Kart, sometimes with his housemate as well. So of course by the January I knew this was the guy I had to be with, and of course the rest is history. We've been married for nearly 11 years now, and we're still going strong. Of course we've got Nintendo North Wales going on in the background too. That has been running since the month after we got married and is built on the very foundations of our marriage. That's one strong community, and I'm proud to represent both Nintendo North Wales and Nintendo Players UK. But of course this episode isn't about the gaming side, it's about the outdoors side. The gaming side will be next month, so watch out for that. But walking, I had one more significant memory from our New Year's resolution, which dropped shortly after the march. But Mother's Day in March, after we'd got together, we walked all the way from Bangor to Llanfair Pwll, to a pub where we didn't realise it was Mother's Day until we looked at the menu and realised it was Mother's Day. But that walk also signified when we ditched the New Year's resolution. New Year's resolutions don't usually stick, and this was one of those typical ones where we gave up by mid-March. But all was not lost. We had a solid foundation as a couple, and the rest is history. But of course we're both gamers, so we spent many years playing Nintendo Wii and 3DS, and the original DS in fact. So when we first got together, he had a DS which we shared, and we asked for a 3DS on our wedding list, and we got one each because my brother forgot to tick it off the gift list, which was incredibly invaluable because Street Pass got people going outdoors and actually meeting each other. So we got into going more outdoors when the 3DS came out, and we had it in summer 2012. Of course, those of you who know the history of Nintendo North Wales know that it started unofficially in November 2012, but officially in September 2013, simply because I was too anxious to actually go and meet and network with people and tell them about us, because I'd been bullied so much for being a gamer as a child that I thought it was a shameful thing to do, was be a gamer. Yet there was all these people out there ready to Street Pass. It was ironic, really. I wasn't one for going out in the evenings, and by 2013-14 I'd sort of full-time job, which meant I didn't really have time to go out for walks. I'd go out for walks during my lunch break into town, but I'd usually end up buying food, and that kind of defeated the object of getting the exercise. So by about 2015 I was heading into the obese category. I was eating out a lot and not going for much exercise. And then 2016 happened, and Pokemon Go happened in that summer, and that summer we were out on all the adventures chasing Pokemon. I had a friend who lodged with us in the summer, and he had a car, so he took us to places like Carnarvon and Llandudno so we could seek other Pokemon than what was in Bangor. Dr. G was at work then and didn't care about Pokemon, so he never came with us. But that only lasted one summer, and by the September it had kind of died down as everyone got back to their work patterns, and the hype for Pokemon Go had been lost. I know a few people who still play it every day, and credit to them for persevering with it and being consistent. I dropped it because where I live was so remote that the nearest poker stop was a 30-minute walk away, and it was a poker stop, not a gym, so I deemed it not worth it and gave up playing. I've since played the Harry Potter game and Pikmin Bloom, but again, I dropped off them eventually because it got a bit samey and boring. In 2017, I had my baby. That put me off going out for walks. I didn't feel secure enough to want to go for walks with him in case something went wrong, or I needed help, and I wouldn't go anywhere on my own, and people wouldn't come with me because they were busy or working or had their own family to deal with and didn't want to go out. So I ended up just not going out, and I seem to have forgotten the function of exercise and the need to exercise. So that saw me like that until summer 2019, where I was putting on weight, and I ended up in hospital in September 2019, but more about that in September, of course. Then lockdown hit. Now, of course, I still had Nintendo North Wales in the background and we were gaming, but when everyone was going for their daily walks in lockdown, we were not. I didn't leave the house for a good 12 to 16 weeks. My car wasn't used. I stayed in the house, we just played video games. But of course by then, I was playing Ring Fit Adventure, so I was doing some kind of exercise routine every single day. And I actually lost 2 stone before lockdown and managed to keep it off in lockdown. So I was quite proud of how far I'd come with that. But I also wasn't going out for walks and getting fresh air. So what changed? Well, in my own calendar, I pinned lockdown to March 2020 to about summer 2021. And we started getting outdoors with Nintendo North Wales in July 2021 with socially distanced outdoor meets in Llandudno, and that worked really well. And that was the first taste of really being outdoors that I had. It was only a short walk, but it was nice to just sit on Happy Valley in Llandudno and watch the clouds pass by. And I went out a couple of times that summer on various walks, and I quite enjoyed it, but I ultimately didn't have the friends to go with. Now previously, I'd go on walks with my sister-in-law, but my sister-in-law had a habit of getting lost, and that made me panic. There was one time when we went by Nantgwertherin, and there were a load of mountain goats staring at us, wondering what on earth we were doing, and we couldn't work out how to get off the cliff edge to the beach. We did find our way around eventually, but the panic has set in, and I didn't know what to do. We were a couple of hours longer than anticipated as well. But I liked an adventure, but I also like to know where I am. So I think after that walk, she kind of gave up taking me anywhere, and she got into cycling, whereas I didn't. So we went our separate ways at that point. But of course we're on lockdown now, so post-lockdown I had my eye on Networks She. So I joined Networks She in March 2022 with the eye of there was a gap in the market for netwalking. So I knew that Llandudno had a netwalking host, but Anglesey did not. So I joined Networks She Diamond member in the June, as sort of a birthday treat to myself, so that I could host the netwalking Anglesey routes. And I'm not sure if it's a requirement or a guideline, but you aim for 1 walk a month, and I could deal with that. It was just enough to keep me going. I started planning walks around Anglesey. I started in Menabridge at Church Island, which is my easy kind of home walk as it is, because I only live up the road. And then I explored Llangefni, I explored Moelfre, I explored Bentlech, I explored Beaumaris. But each time I only got 1 person signing up generally. But that was okay because that 1 person I could get to know on a deeper level. And I liked that. But obviously in the figures sense, it didn't look too good. It's like, why weren't people signing up for my walks? Maybe it was the time of day. I'm working on that still. But I enjoy the smaller walks as much as the bigger walks. You can have up to 20 people on a walk and you don't get to talk to everyone then. But the smaller walks, you've got that closer knit chat that you can have. So my favourite walk is the Church Island one because it doesn't matter how many times I go, the views are always very slightly different. The different skies, the different water patterns, the different birds, the different wildlife, even the different dogs walking about. There's always something different to notice, and I love that. I always get my pictures of the bridges as well. But my other favourite walk is the Bentlech Beach one. So when it's lowest tide, you can walk from Bentlech to Red Wharf or Red Wharf to Bentlech. And if it's still low tide, you can walk back. Now, both times I attempted it in summer 2022 with my mum and my student's mum on separate occasions, the tide had come up too high on the way back, so we had to do a bit of rock scrambling on the way back. So when I do my walk later this month, which is on Thursday the 27th of July at 10:30am, I hope I've timed it right with the tides, because I have an app that tells me the tide times and I find that really useful. So hopefully we've got good weather and it is low tide for the duration of the walk, so we can have our panad at the boatyard in Red Wharf Bay. Wish me luck. So the other thing I do is I saw Netwalking UK pop up at the end of last year, so around Christmas 2022, and Lauren was looking for people to take over the areas that she wants to cover, because she's based somewhere down south and I'm on Anglesey, so I saw a gap in the market again and jumped on it. I think I was the first person to sign up for Lauren's network, and it was North West Wales that I labelled it rather than Anglesey, so as not to confuse it with the network she hosts, which is Netwalking Anglesey. So Netwalking North West Wales is part of Netwalking UK, and I do walks mainly in Menai Bridge Church Island for that, but I also use Plascoch and Llanberis occasionally. When it's not tourist season, it's the best time to go to Llanberis, and that waterfall is simply amazing. I hope to do that again in the near future, but for now we're just settling in Menai Bridge. With it being North West Wales, I also hope to explore a bit of the Llŷn Peninsula in the future, so watch this space for that one. Network She is for women in business, but Netwalking UK is for anyone who wants to connect. I'd love to see you on one of my netwalks at some point, so if you're local to Anglesey or North West Wales, or even just on holiday for a few weeks, get in touch and I can plan a walk around when you're here. I'd love to meet you. Thanks for listening to today's podcast episode about how I love the outdoors despite being a gamer. Later this month, we've got Lauren Malone herself from Netwalking UK to come and talk about how she got into netwalking in the first place and how she thinks it's a good idea for networking the non-traditional way. I'm looking forward to hearing from her. See you next time.